Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On today's show, I have an old interview or discussion I did with Ed Opperman in 2013 with Dave McGowan about the subject of the West Memphis Three. We did about a 2-hour show and then an after show, so this will be the first part. This will be the whole show I did with Ed Opperman. I'm reposting this with Ed Opperman's permission, so thanks to Ed. Really appreciate the generosity in allowing me to repost this. And I will put links to Ed's show and his website where you can listen to all his interviews. There's a lot with me on there. Dave McGowan about Program to Kill, his famous book, and many, many others. He's done a lot of great interviews recently too. So go check out Ed Opperman at the Ed Opperman Report and his website. And then look for the follow-on after show where we take questions from callers. And I'll try to post that as soon as possible. But again, this was about the West Memphis Three back in 2013. Unfortunately, Dave passed away in 2015. So rest in peace, Dave. Thank you.
Tonight, we have probably two of my favorite guests and two of my most popular guests. We got Dave McGowan, who's the author of Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon and Program to Kill. And we also have William Ramsey, author of Abomination, Devil Worship, and Deception in the West Memphis Three Murder, and another book called Aleister Crowley, A Visual Study and Prophet of Evil, Aleister Crowley, 9/11, and the New World Order. First your show. Good old Dave McGowan and William Ramsey. You there, guys?
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay, great. Why don't we start off with William Ramsey? Give us a little synopsis who you are and how you got involved. Because we're telling our topic is going to be the West Memphis Three. We'll start off with that, but who knows where the hell we'll go? Because we're all into the same stuff. So go ahead.
I started at the West Memphis Three when I was watching a video. I was actually researching my next book, which I'm still working on, but I came across a video that had one of the central character of the West Memphis Three, Damien Eccles, talking about Aleister Crowley. It was during a examination in court, and that kind of piqued my interest. I was wondering about the case. I had written the prior book about Crowley, Prophet of Evil. So I was wondering why Crowley was tied to the case, and that kind of drew me in. I'd heard of the West Memphis Three prior. I think I saw the first of three documentaries in 1996, and I had just it kind of came out of my mind. I really didn't think about it much, and then I had seen that they were released in 2011, and once I started researching, I really was it seemed to me that I was uncovering a lot of facts and evidence that a lot of other people about the case were not covering. According to the public, the West Memphis Three were unjustly convicted of the heinous crime of three 8-year-old boys. But to me, reading through it, I saw so much evidence of the occult in the case and just tons of deception and outright lying. And so it really led me down kind of a rabbit hole of the case and led me to write a book, which was Abomination, Devil Worship, and Deception in the West Memphis Three Murders. And my basic position is that the three people, Damien Eccles, Jason Baldwin, and Jesse Miskelly, were justly convicted of the crime.
Yeah. Now, what about you, Dave? How'd you get involved with the West Memphis Three? And tell us about your book, too, Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon.
I first looked into the case, I want to say probably about 10, 12 years ago, when I was doing the research and writing Program to Kill. And, of course, the occult themes and whatnot, tied it in closely with the material in that book, but it wasn't technically a serial killer case, so it didn't really fit in with the book, so I didn't use it there. And I've looked into it a couple of times since then. It's popped up. But I have not looked at it in excruciating detail. So I'm just kind of hoping that I'm not in over my head here today with the two of you, who I know probably know a little bit more about the minutiae of the case than I do. But I have looked into it and definitely have very strong opinions on it. And one thing that I would say is that for me, And really, I think for most people, even although it's always referred to as the West Memphis 3 case, it's never really been about the West Memphis 3. It's always been about Damien Echols, and Baldwin and Miskelly were really just sort of the beneficiaries of what was absolutely a relentless drive to exonerate and free Echols, through this massive propaganda campaign waged through Hollywood with the HBO films and the Peter Jackson film and whatnot. And, it's Echols that's out hanging, partying with the Hollywood crowd and getting the film production credits and getting the lucrative book contracts and the well-attended public appearances and, going out and getting matching tattoos with Johnny Depp.
Yeah, and
all of that
private planes, flying around on private planes.
And so, it's always really been about Damien Echols. And, I think on both sides, with supporters and detractors alike, he has always been at the forefront of this case. And, I personally, I don't know that I really have a huge problem with the other two. Well, I don't know about Baldwin, but certainly not Miskelly, being freed after 18 years of imprisonment. But, Damien Echols certainly, absolutely deserves to be behind bars. And I do not in any way, shape, or form feel that there was a miscarriage of justice in that case. And, despite what a lot of his supporters seem to believe, and despite the relentless drive, we need to make clear that he was not, that although he was freed, he has in fact never been exonerated. And he is basically a paroled, convicted, triple child killer. Despite the fact that his supporters don't like to hear that, that is legally the case. He has never been exonerated. He is in fact a convicted child murderer. And yet he's treated like royalty, in and by Hollywood. And, they roll out the red carpet for this guy, and it's just, very distasteful to say the least. So.
Yeah, I think that's one of the more remarkable elements of the case, and I think you really encapsulated that well, is that there's just so much propaganda about it, and the celebrity element is really a rarity in so many other murder cases. But it is true, he's actually a double convict. He's actually a rarity in the criminal justice system, where he was convicted in 1994 and then again in 2011 with the Alford plea, which his supporters seem to think is something less than a guilty plea, which is transparent falsity. It is a guilty plea, so that's what allowed him probation.
I mean, the reality is that millions of dollars were thrown at this case, through the profits from these films and through benefit concerts and all of his celebrity supporters and whatnot. And I mean, the guy had a veritable army of high-dollar attorneys and private detectives and FBI profilers and filmmakers and everything else working for him, for 18 years, trying every legal means possible to get that verdict overturned. And it stood and still stands to this day. Despite what his supporters want to believe, that guilty verdict withstood 18 years of legal challenges by a pretty formidable army of people that were assembled around this guy.
Yeah, they had a billboard up, a billboard in the middle of town saying, "Hey, come on in and come up with any kind of excuse or any other suspect, whatever information you got, and we'll pay you, come on in." So, yeah.
He attracted all kinds of ex-felons, people who came up with new memories 15 years after the fact. I mean, there was one claim, which is the most farcical and ridiculous, is that the murders happened because 4 guys were engaged in some type of orgy and the 3 children came upon them. It's unbelievable how the twists and turns of the case over this 18 years.
Yeah, it seems like lately they want to point the finger at good old Terry Hobbs, who is listening right now. He's been on the show before. He's been on the show with me and William, as a matter of fact, and he'll probably be calling in tonight during the after show. Now, one thing is, when we started talking about this, as soon as you bring up any guest I have on here, as soon as you bring up West Memphis 3, I had Pat Brown, the criminal profiler. I had Diane Diamond. I had Vito Colucci. I had Steph Watts. Anybody who's in the media and you mention the West Memphis 3 case, the first thing that comes out of their mouth is, those people are so crazy, man. They're going to be stalking me. They're going to be trolling me, insulting me. You know, have you guys ever experienced, well, I guess, David, have you, any other controversy you've stuck your nose in, have you seen any group of people that are just so rabidly insulting and rude and troll-like than you have with the West Memphis 3 case?
Yeah, it was, it got a stronger reaction, I would have to say, than anything that I put up on my, Facebook page. I set up a Facebook page primarily to promote my book, and, I post, various things on there that are related either to the book or to other avenues of research that I'm, pretty well known for. And, I don't know that any got a more mixed response than that one. And, I think I am firmly convinced that the guy uses, plants in his, public appearances. And, I wish I would have bookmarked it, but I didn't. But, a couple of years ago, well, maybe it wasn't, maybe a year and a half ago or something, I saw this video on YouTube of one of his public appearances where he was doing kind of a Q&A. He and his wife were on stage doing this Q&A with a large audience in his auditorium. And the very first gal that they called on to ask the question asked a pretty hardball question, but it was fair. It was a fair question, I thought, certainly. But it was a question that was very critical of things that he's claimed and said in the past. And Eccles kind of fumbled around for an answer, and then she took her seat, and then they immediately called the next gal up, and she came up and took the microphone, and before even asking her question, as soon as she took the microphone, she used that opportunity to thoroughly berate this first woman who had dared to, question, ask a serious question of Eccles, and just went on a pretty long harangue against this gal, and then of course tossed Eccles a real softball question. And I got the definite impression that she was a plant that was in the audience specifically to be called on if Eccles, found himself in a jam or happened to get a semi-hostile question. I think that it's a very well coordinated effort around him to shout down anyone who questions any aspect of his version of events.
Yeah, and I think that's true also on the internet and Facebook and all kinds of social media. They have, I think, a very sophisticated PR team that actually monitors social media for anything negative and make sure that some of Eccles' cultists or followers or paid opinion makers respond to any negative positions within a day. I've actually posted stuff late at night at 12 o'clock and had a response like, a really feral, ferocious response within 2 hours. So to me, that was like an indicator that there's some type of sophisticated monitoring going around about his name or anything with that kind of tag, whether it's West Memphis 3, Damien Eccles, something like that. So, and I know for a fact that they're one of the most unusual elements of the entire situation that a lot of people don't know about or can't get their head around is that how many cult followers he's got who really will do anything that he says, as far as harassing people, putting negative information out, character assassination. I mean, my book on Amazon, I've had just running battles with deranged Eccles supporters for at least a year. Just people making up nonsense, throwing Terry Hobbs in front of the bus. It's really amazing. I'd never expected anything like that, and it really clarifies a lot of how the situation of how he got this so much support is that he has a core of supporters, and I know for a fact that there's a couple pretty sharp people amongst his supporters who operate under 2 or 3 or 4 different aliases online.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've been following this since like '96. Back on Usenet. As soon as I saw the documentary, I went looking online. What could I find about it? And I went on Usenet. Those groups there. Remember with the good old Sean Wheeler? We had Sean Wheeler on our show, the first show we did a year ago, who I believe is an expert on this case. I never met anybody who knew more details in this case. And at the time, he was using names like a public enemy numero uno. And he would shorten it to PENU. He's a real character, I tell you. I think we disagree on everything else but this case. But he knew every little minutia detail on this case. And he argued, 24 hours a day with these characters. And I think he kept this thing going just as much as some of the supporters did. And one thing I believe is there's been such debate and examination of this case that the supporters, especially the main ones in charge at the top, have to know by now that these guys are guilty. And either there's someone invested in their money-making scheme and their reputations, and this has just become it's been such a cult on both sides, because the supporters and the nons, they all socialize with each other, they spend all day with each other, they're all in each other's business constantly. But I believe that the people at the very top, the three main characters who got the West Memphis 3 support site, I believe that they all must realize by now that these guys are guilty. But they're just going ahead with it.
Yeah, when he was talking about the armies of supporters, and I'm pretty well convinced that those supporters fall into 2 camps, and the vast majority of his supporters, his rank and file supporters who have been duped by the HBO films and the Peter Jackson films. I'm sure that they really genuinely believe that he's an innocent victim of a criminal justice system run amok, and that he was unjustly imprisoned, had like 20 years of his life unjustly taken away from him, and I'm sure there's a lot of them that really ardently believe that. But I'm also equally sure that a lot of his like celebrity and very high profile supporters have to absolutely know, how ridiculously inaccurate those films were, and they have to know that this guy is guilty. And I believe that some of them actually kind of look up to and admire him for that fact.
I totally agree with you.
Well, I agree with that too.
Johnny Depp that are running around getting matching tattoos with, I think he sees this guy. I think he actually, admires him for having done what he did. And I know that's a difficult concept for a lot of people to wrap their heads around. But yeah, I think absolutely some of his, more high profile, more elite sort of supporters absolutely know that he's guilty and support him exactly because of that. You know?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's one of the kind of difficult elements of the case and that's the occult element for me of the case, is that a lot of his core celebrity supporters are interested in the occult / Satanism as much as Eccles is, who was absolutely 100% fascinated.
Yeah, absolutely. Your Johnny Depps and your Henry Rollins and the members of the band Disturbed and Ozzy Osbourne. And I mean, you don't have to look too far to realize that these guys have a pretty keen interest in the occult. And I think they view it as like Eccles gained some kind of power, from doing that, and they want to share in that, sort of.
Playing the devil's advocate, he did get out of prison after killing 3 little kids. He did gain some, he got some kind of power there, man.
Well, you make an excellent point. If you read the intro to his new book, he ascribes his success in getting out of jail to magic with a K.
Right.
T-I-C-K. He said, all I did is use magic to get out of jail, which I think is extremely telling about where his, spiritual inclinations lie and his mindset.
Well, William, give us something, because you've done a lot of work on Eccles since he's been out of prison, and I believe you and myself were on a short list of enemies list, and I think he's very well aware of us.
I've been through. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm on a very short list. Me, Blatty, you, yeah, and then maybe Dave McGowan will now be
Yeah,
added.
hey, Dave, hang out with the cool kids.
I only put a one little brief Facebook post. That's all.
Well, now you're in it now, though, bro.
But I'll tell you, I was not, I did not know much about social media at all. Never really had much regard for it. And my publisher convinced me to put up the Facebook page for purposes of promoting the book. He basically told me that social media is a key component of any successful, marketing campaign in this day and age, especially if, you don't have mainstream media backing. And so I put it up, and I was pretty much a babe in the woods initially, and it's really been a learning experience about like trolling and how these people operate and how professional and well organized these operations are. And I really didn't know what I was getting into, and when people first started trolling my page, I was reluctant to ban them, and people kept telling me, they're trolls, you just got to ban them, or they're not going to go away. They're just, the more you interact with them, the more that, and
I know. I think one time there was a post from your daughter who went on your page and said, "Dad, you can't keep feeding these guys."
Yeah. And there is one guy, I don't even know if it's a guy, who knows? Maybe it's a guy, maybe it's a gal, maybe it's a conglomeration of people. I have no idea. But I have banned this guy from my Facebook page no less than half a dozen times, maybe more. And he comes right back within a couple of days with a brand new Facebook profile, new name, but it's perfectly obvious that it's the same person, And people say, why don't you ban that guy? And I'm like, why? For what? What? I mean, he's got unlimited identities, obviously. What good does it do me to ban? And sometimes he's been on there at times with 2 to 3 identities at the same time.
Yeah.
Like cross commenting on his own posts and stuff. And it's just.
Well, you know what? You have a really cool page though. That the weird scenes inside the canyon page. Gets into all different kinds of topics, like even Phil Hartman. I read a great thing you had up there about Phil Hartman this week, and then today you were giving out some great gossip we'll get into later on. But I definitely recommend that page. That's a page I stop by every day for sure.
Well, thank you very much. And it's been a learning experience, and I've also found that if you ban them from Facebook, sometimes they will go directly to Amazon and retaliate for by slamming your book on Amazon. So, I've gotten 1-star reviews from people specifically because I banned them from Facebook. And I'm pretty sure that some of these same people that are using multiple identities on Facebook have also reviewed my book under multiple identities, making it look like there's more 0-star, 1-star, or whatever it is, reviews than there actually are.
I had a review on my book before it was shipped. The book wasn't shipped yet. Okay, man. So like, oh my God, that's a whole nother story.
It's been a learning experience, and I only did one little post on the West Memphis 3, so I haven't dealt specifically with those trolls, but on various other issues, I have definitely experienced it, and it's been eye-opening. It's been a very eye-opening experience at what lengths these people will go to try to discredit you or to try to rile you whatever means they can to try to make you look bad.
Oh yeah, but with this, but that's with everything though. But my experience though has been with this topic, the West Memphis 3 topic. It just becomes so personal, so fast. I even stumbled upon a website the other day that had the top 10 documentaries that are going to change your life, going to make you feel real creepy, whatever it was. And one of them in there was about the West Memphis 3, and the guy described it as about these 3 guys who murdered these little kids. And right away, well, you better change your attitude. You better get your facts straight, mister. And all the comments, This poor guy just, saw a documentary. He doesn't realize that people live 24 hours a day on this subject and memorize every little minute detail and every little fact about this case.
Yeah, I got the same thing. I mean, as soon as I put that post up, people came flooding in, and they were people that I hadn't previously, seen pop up on the page. There seem to be new people coming in, just throwing out all kinds of false information about the case, and trying their very best to get me to change my position or to just make me look bad, or whatever they could do to try to marginalize my opinion on the case.
Yeah, but
I've just seen so much of that. I mean, a lot of it is like mind control techniques where it's like, you don't believe that, or how can you believe that, or I've been through all of that stuff in all different varieties of formats, whether it's Amazon, Facebook, whatever.
Yeah, William especially, because William really points out the occult aspect of the case and the Satanism and the vampirism and all that kind of stuff like that. Whereas even guys like Sean Wheeler, who is I think one of the top experts in this case for years, always kind of poo-pooed the satanic, the occult elements behind these crimes. And William Ramsey, I just found him by accident on YouTube, and I says, whoa, this guy's, because I always knew it, man. I always saw it. I just felt it. And after getting to know these people, I knew that a lot of them were into it too.
Yeah, I mean that's the scariest element of the whole.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
One of the things, if you read his Life After Death, so I had researched Crowley pretty thoroughly, and one of his prime rituals is called the HGA rituals. It's the Contact Your Holy Guardian Angel. And when I was reading Deckel's book, and he had actually mentioned it in there in Life After Death, I was like, that was the core giveaway, because you'd have to have a very skilled and thorough understanding of Crowley to actually know that ritual and to do it,
And you actually told me one time that you think that Eccles' family comes from a long family of people involved in witchcraft and all this kind of stuff?
I think his mother was. I think
Right.
that the mother definitely was, and it's like True Detective or something like that. Like there's a lot more to the story. The year after the murders, his mother, his father, and his sister were at a bonfire on the Mississippi, on the bank of the Mississippi River, where somebody ended up getting shot.
Right.
And they ended up getting killed, and then the sister covered up the gun. But like, what are you doing out on the bank of the Mississippi River on a bonfire at 11 p.m. at night? And that to me was like, so the family is clearly covering for him. They've got the standard kind of responses. There's a part of my book where I show that the mother was taking Eccles to bookstores to find specific books. Eccles has a very thorough knowledge of the occult, and he admitted it on the stand. I have a video of that he said, I think it was Davis who asked him, what did you know about this? And he says, I know almost everything about the occult. Like, he admitted it right there. So his mom was facilitating him in his occult interest, and you can tell that they knew what was going on. The family knew about the knives, the wands, the staves with the staffs, and the skulls that had been bleached, and they were very familiar. So
right. He had a rat skull, I think a dog skull in his room, or was it a cat skull?
Something like that, or cats and dogs. There was tons of stuff between the time they were arrested and the murder. There were tons of stuff disappeared from the police. Like, he always had a trench coat, and knives. All that stuff was gone from both him and Jason. But up until that time, he was recorded as having all kinds of, skulls and all kinds of elements of the occult.
All right, guys, I got to read some live ads, okay? So you got a couple of minutes if you want to take a break. But when I get back, I want William to get into William Ramsey, the author of Abomination, Devil Worship and Deception in the West Memphis 3 Murder, to tell us about it. Because I know you've done a lot of work on Eccles since he's been out of prison. Here's this guy where he's in prison. He says, I am a Buddhist now. I'm a Buddhist. Okay, and then he comes out of prison, and now he's doing all his Reiki healings. He's hanging out with guys from the Process Church, old-time Process people, all that kind of stuff. So, but we're here tonight with William Ramsey, author of Abomination, Devil Worship and Deception in the West Memphis 3 Murder, Aleister Crowley, A Visual Study and Prophet of Evil, Aleister Crowley, 911, and the New World Order, and good old Dave McGowan, who's written Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon and Program to Kill. So we got two experts here on the occult, on murder, this conspiracy, everything you can want to get on this kind of topic. We have a stellar cast tonight. I know you've done a lot of work on Eccles since he's gotten out of prison, and how he's hanging around with old-time process guys, really like big shots in the process church.
Yeah, I mean, he was with a guy by the name of Genesis P. Orge, who's been around the process for at least 20, 30 years, and he was in a movie that was in New York, and there's even a picture of them together. Pretty heavy-duty connection. This guy's still doing process rituals and stuff like that. Eccles is, like, covered his body in black magic tattoos. He has, like, the same tattoo that this one guy has from Red Dragon, the movie Red Dragon. It's like the same kind of Chinese insignia. He's got that tattoo. He also has like a black dragon tattooed, but the most stunning tattoo is the one that they put on his back. It seems like a lot of these guys have this black sun tattoo, and it's pretty scary. I mean, so he's also, you know, doing all kinds of Reiki work. He's tried to integrate himself with Yoga Works out here in Los Angeles, believe it or not. He did something called Magic on the Mat with a very well-known yoga instructor. And Yoga Works is really, you know, there's all kinds of Yoga Works studios out here in L.A., but it seems like they got the message, and one of the kind of studio shows that they were going to have out in L.A. got canceled, and that whole thing fell apart. For Eccles, but I have covered some of that material on my on Facebook, and it's on West Memphis 3 Facts. Is really a great site for anybody who wants to see some truthful investigative work on the West Memphis 3. So West Memphis 3 Facts on Facebook, or also West Memphis 3 Truth. Also Eccles, he's now in New York. He's still doing kind of like artwork and associating with some, you know, he's basically still sending out his interest in the occult. He's still making these Theban designed tattoos that he has, you know, shared with Peter Jackson and Johnny Depp. And the Theban kind of alphabet is also known as the witch's alphabet. He's still kind of doing his own thing. He's got pictures of wands and crystal balls on his websites, and you know, he's still kind of continuing his. You know, I think that's his kind of identity, is this occult identity, and he's still doing interviews. He was on CNN recently for his new book, and yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, he was. He did a book signing at Book Soup just days after I did mine, actually. Except that his was not held in the bookstore where mine was. He was actually, they booked him into one of the local theaters so they could accommodate a much larger crowd, and they actually charged admission to go and see him and you know, get your book signed, which I've never heard of that, for an author to actually charge admission to a book signing. And you know, my first thought was that that was designed to, you know, keep out all but the true believers, most likely, you know.
What kind of crowd did he have?
I did not attend, so I you know, I have no idea, but yeah, when they booked me at Book Soup, I was actually sandwiched in between Tate, the Sharon Tate sister, who had recently written a book about her sister. What is her name? I can't remember her name. Deborah Tate, or I don't remember, but she had just been there right before me, and Damien Eccles was scheduled to appear just a day or two after me. So it was kind of weird timing that I got sandwiched in between the Manson murders and the West Memphis 3 murders.
Yeah, that is a little creepy.
Yeah. In my Book Soup appearance, yeah.
Hey, let me ask a question, because I think we have a little feedback. Does everyone have their mute on? Cindy and Zeta, and everyone has their mute?
Just to go back to some additional occult information, during the trial, which I think a lot of the books and the documentaries didn't go over, there was a discussion of the pentagram that Eccles had tattooed on his chest. And, you know, I feature that in my book, and I think that's something that's critically important in understanding his interest in the occult prior to the murders, and also that is just, to me, like a really essential element that a lot of people have looked over as far as he's concerned. And also he's writing again in this like book of shadows that he's writing his spells, and he said he wanted to do some great magical working. So he's anybody in New York should probably know he lives there now and be concerned.
Oh, he's no longer living in Salem? I thought he was living in Salem.
Yeah, I heard that they basically got run out of Salem. It's my understanding. I think that there was a whole blow up between him and Blatty on this website Salem Web, and I think most of the people in Salem came to understand that they had a convicted child killer who was living in their town who was lying about it, and it's my understanding they had to move to New York so they could he and his wife could be more anonymous.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, I've also heard that there's a little trouble in paradise between him and Laurie, because he seemed pretty cozy with that yoga lady.
Really cozy.
Yeah, that was something. Now, the most recent pictures that I've seen, though, he's looking really, really skinny. I think it was with Sandra Oh. No, not Sandra Oh. Margaret Chow, maybe.
Yeah, he was at a some kind of radio show with Sarah Silverman.
Right.
Sarah Silverman, and he looked like to me, I've seen people who are meth addicts. He looked like one. I really don't know what's going on.
He's very pale.
Yeah.
I think by choice, he seems to cultivate that, goth look or whatever you would call it. So yeah, and it's kind of odd. I mean, don't most inmates come out of prison all heavily inked up? I mean, it's kind of odd that that he's been on like this tattoo run for the last few years since he's been out of prison. Like he just cannot cover his body with enough occult symbolism, it seems.
Yeah. One of the things too was the turtle tattoos, because one of the new theories that have come out is that some of the injuries on the children were done by turtles in the water.
Yeah.
And this guy has the balls to go out and get turtle tattoos.
Oh, did he? I did not know. Wow. That's, not surprising, I suppose.
William, did Johnny Depp get matching turtle tattoos as well?
I don't know if he got turtle tattoos. They got some matching Theban alphabet tattoo that the sigil that they used on the inside of the circle is supposed to represent brothers. So he and Johnny Depp, and they've made that statement publicly in interviews that, Eccles considers Johnny a brother, and he's been with him all the way through the entire event. And, if you follow Depp and his past, I think his interest in the occult is blatantly obvious. I mean, it's amazing. His associations with certain people and are pretty, pretty good evidence of what his interests are.
Yeah, Hunter Thompson. Now, I think we discussed this in the past, David. What do you think about the accusations against Hunter Thompson?
I tend to find them credible. You know, the guy. I was a huge fan once upon a time. I remember Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Back in my drug-fueled younger days, and thought it was one of the greatest books I'd ever read in my life. I tend to find them credible. I know that there's considerable controversy over those accusations, which first appeared in John DeCamp's book, right? His Franklin cover-up book, I believe, and which came from Paul Bonacci, I believe, right? One of the, and they've been very controversial, but I tend to find them. I tend to find them credible, and believe that it may have been connected with his death, possibly.
Yeah, if you want to see a very interesting interview with Hunter S. Thompson, it's online. It's the interview he did with David Letterman, where he walked on stage and his right hand's bandaged up. I would suggest to you and your listeners just Google that and take a look at that. It's pretty damning and kind of verifies what he's all about. I've done some research on Thompson, and it's not pretty.
I think he says I enjoy killing.
Yeah, I like to kill. He basically says I like to kill. And then he also follows up at the end of the interview is the best place to hide is in plain sight. Or I can't remember his exact words. That's a paraphrase, but basically, the best you got to see the interview. It's amazing.
Yeah, sort of like a Jimmy Savile,
Yeah.
Yeah, and Thompson, when you read his books, it's, Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail, and because I read all his books, man. I was some of his old books, man. I read them like 10 times, and breaks my heart. I was a big Sarah Silverman fan too, but he talks about hanging out with Jimmy Carter, hanging out with Richard Nixon, so the guy had his access.
Yeah, he was given considerable access to Nixon on the campaign trail when he wrote that book, and way back in the day, he was quite the icon of the hippie peace and love crowd, and the guy was actually quite the reactionary, and quite a gun nut, and he basically lived on this armed compound, and
ran for sheriff and came close to winning, man.
He shot someone, didn't he? Wasn't there a controversial shooting on his compound at one time?
I don't know if it was the shooting. He definitely was, somebody accused him of sexual assault in a hot tub on his compound. But he also lived on, I think it was Mount Parnassus in San Francisco, and he used to shoot his gun out the window. And he also worked at the, was it the Farrelly Theater? What was that theater that was in San Francisco? The Farrell's? That sound right?
Yeah, the brothers, yeah.
Yeah, and they ended up, one of the brothers ended up shooting the other one.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah.
He was a doorman there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and then the Hells Angels, that whole bit.
Yeah, he had very curiously easy access to the Hells Angels for a considerable length of time. Yeah, that was, led by Sonny Barger, who was almost assuredly a police/FBI informant. So yeah, and his longtime attorneys in Colorado were the same law firm that represented the Ramseys and the governor and various other dignitaries in the state of Colorado. So curious choice for a law firm to be representing. And so yeah, there was a lot of aspects about him that didn't quite fit the the mold of who we're supposed to believe he was, and had a pretty close relationship with old Johnny Depp as well before he died.
And with Don Johnson.
Oh really?
Oh yeah.
Really, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
What's that?
Well, I guess you Google their names together, but I know they were hanging out together. But because you just had some information today that you just shared on your Facebook, you want to share that with us today?
Well, it came up in conjunction with the Menendez case, and somebody had emailed me to ask why I did not include in Weird Scenes the strange life arc of Karen Lamb, who was one of Dennis Wilson's wives, twice actually. He married her twice in 1976 and then divorced her very shortly and then remarried her in 78. And but that was the only information that I had come across about her in all the research that I'd done on the Beach Boys. I hadn't come across any other information about her. But as it turns out, after her time spent with Dennis Wilson, she became a pretty close friend of Kitty Menendez, and was a good friend of hers when her and Jose were gunned down in their Beverly Hills mansion in 1989 purportedly by the two sons, Eric and Lyle. And she actually served as got a production credit on the TV miniseries that was made on the Menendez brothers. So So there was an interesting little connection there between someone who had been, kind of part of the Laurel Canyon scene, and then later being connected to the,
Oh, wait, we got a break coming up, man. What an early break, man. Okay, this is a nice long break, guys. You can go get a drink, do whatever you want, go to the bathroom, make a pizza. It's a really long break. It's like 5-6 minutes, so you can really do what you want to do. Okay, we are here tonight with Dave McGowan, font of information, weird scenes inside the canyon and Program to Kill, and also William Ramsey, an expert on the occult, and Crowley, and a researcher, an authority on Damien Eccles, man, and his occult involvement, stuff like that. Okay, we're here tonight with Dave McGowan, Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon, Program to Kill, William Ramsey, Abomination, Devil Worship and Deception in the West Memphis Free Murder, Aleister Crowley, A Visual Study and Prophet of Evil, Aleister Crowley, 9/11, and the New World Order. One thing, guys, that popped into my head, I made a note about it, that maybe you guys know about it, maybe you don't. I don't know what brought it to my mind, but Arliss Perry. The Arliss Perry case, because maybe I was thinking about it because we just both, all three of us, got invited to that little top secret Maury Terry group. But the Arliss Perry case, what I found out recently was that her husband became a therapist or a psychologist or something like that. And you know what he did, man? He was the guy who was treating the kids from Waco.
Really?
Yeah.
That's the gal that was ritually killed in the chapel at what was it, Stanford or something like that?
Yeah, that was connected. That son of Sam, David Berkowitz, brought up and said, "Oh yeah, that's a process case." He's the one that drew it into this whole thing. But her husband became a therapist, a big shot therapist, I suppose. I guess working for the FBI or what? Who knows? And somehow he wound up to be the guy who was treating the kids at Waco.
Small world, isn't it?
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
That case is really incredible. I grew up in Palo Alto, so I was familiar with that whole situation, the rumors. I knew a lot of the people at the. I grew up with a lot of the families of the people who worked at the law firm that she did right before she died, and there was like something. I mean, that all that case is in Maury Terry's book, The Ultimate Evil, and one of the elements of the case that was researched by him was that somebody came and talked to her at the law firm that people assumed was her husband, and then when they saw her husband, or they saw the real husband at the funeral, they were wondering who that other person was at the law firm.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, what's this thing you wrote, The Process, the Crowleyans, and the Unsolved Murder about Arliss Perry? That's a book you wrote?
No, that's just an article I wrote about the Arliss Perry killing.
Oh, yeah, we got to check that out, yeah.
Yeah, so the interesting thing is she died on like a holy day of Crowley's, which was Crowley Moss, as a celebratory day of Crowley's birthday, which is, I can't if I recollect, October 12th.
Yeah.
So she died that, and the whole element of her, like where her body was splayed out, was very occult, and I can't confirm this, but she was splayed out on the altar. That was the real truth about the case, and they moved the body from the altar to the side of the chapel just to kind of maintain the sanctity of the killing, or the sanctity of the church. Excuse me.
Who did, the police?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes, and it was just an awful. And somebody had played or displayed the genes of hers in some kind of occult manner, where there was kind of like what you'd see on a Masonic sign, like as basically the compass and the square or whatever. It was like you have to there's pictures of it on the article that I wrote, Process, Crowley Moss, and the Unsolved Murder of Arliss Perry.
Yeah, that's what I had heard, that very, very heavily Masonic symbolism, that her legs were spread and then her pants were like kind of crossed across them, representing the Masonic square.
So
yeah,
like as above, oh so below kind of iconography.
Yeah, the kind of reverse chevron sort of design. Yeah.
So what do you guys think, man? Me and William, we've been attending this group on Facebook, this top secret group, and different information, coming from Maury Terry directly. But there seems to be like a new theory that the process are not really a satanic group, but it's more like an intelligence agency group, but they just have the satanic front in order to attract people that are kind of willing to do murders and sell drugs and pedophilia and stuff like that. Well, what's your guys' take on that theory?
I don't know. I really don't know. I wouldn't have nothing that I've read about it has shown that to be the case.
Yeah, it's. I have not heard or read anything in that regard. So I couldn't really comment on that. But it sounds like spin, like damage control, but without having seen any information in that regard, I couldn't really comment on it.
Gotcha. Okay, one thing I'm going to have an upcoming show on is the Jeffrey McDonald case. What are your guys' opinions on that?
I've never studied it, so I know I have a very topical understanding of it.
Okay, what about you, Dave?
I read the book years ago, many years ago, Fatal Vision, when it first came out, and, I was kind of a true crime buff in those days, or thought I was anyway.
Yeah, right.
I didn't realize that everything I was reading was basically disinformation, but, I remember reading the book and being absolutely convinced that, he was in fact guilty. And then later reading the counterpoint, which was Fatal Justice or I don't know, some other book that was written.
False Witness.
And, I've looked into the case off and on, and, read compelling arguments on both sides. And, I really don't know what to make of it at this point. I really don't know.
It's interesting that because there were people down there that weren't part of a satanic cult, witchcraft cult they called it in this case. And it turns out too, that Colonel Aquino was stationed at Fort Bragg at that same time. Did you guys know that?
No.
Yeah, I know. Blows your mind, right? Turns out Colonel Aquino was stationed at Fort Bragg right around that same time. It turns out that a kid, there was another child molestation scandal at Fort Bragg around that same time as well, and they fingered Aquino on that. They ID'd him. There was a cult, and this woman with the floppy hat and the black guy with the short-haired guy with the soldiers, the sergeant stripes on his army jacket, were part of this cult. And who was their handler? Good old Ted Gunderson. He was the guy who was running these witnesses and controlling these witnesses, And I don't know if I told you guys the story. I knew Ted Gunderson, but I don't know if I told you the story about how when I spoke to Jackie Magooly, who was the mother from McMartin, the McMartin case. She was dating Gunderson. He was living at her house, and I was chatting with her on Facebook back in AOL back in those days, a long time ago, like '97. And she said, "Okay, call me up on the phone." In fact, she thought I was Alex Constantine. Okay, when we were chatting online, because I was so obsessed with his work, man. I had it all memorized, So I contacted her, and we started talking about Gunderson, and she told me, she says, well, Ted Gunderson talks on the phone to Colonel Aquino every day. Wow. And I said, he does, and I was a big fan of Gunderson at the time, and I says, why? Why would he do that? And she goes, it makes him feel important. But he was on telephone contact with Colonel Aquino every single day. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the accusations now from Stu Webb and that circle against Gunderson.
Tell me about it.
Well, he talks about how Gunderson married, I think it was Anton LaVey's ex-wife or something like that, and that Gunderson was fired from the FBI for doing satanic rituals and all kinds of bizarre stuff. And Stu Webb lived with them. Stu Webb lived with Gunderson here in Las Vegas. And I was involved in some litigation in a case out here that Gunderson was on the same case as I was, and he was actually kicked off the case because he wasn't licensed here in Nevada, which is really unusual because you can work for a lawyer without having a local license. But he was barred from the case by the DA's office and by the judge, and that was Stu Webb was behind it. Stu Webb got mad at him and ratted him out in the court case there and got him thrown off the case.
Huh. I also spoke to Jackie McGowan. I'm pretty sure it was her, one of the McMartin moms. I'm 90% sure it was Jackie McGowan. Many years ago, she called me on the phone. Probably about the time that I was doing the research on what would become the Program to Kill book, and I was looking into the McMartin case and the Finders case and the Presidio preschool case and various other high-profile cases of that nature. And she leveled some pretty serious accusations against Gunderson when I spoke with her, and basically told me that he had come in kind of posing as the white knight, that was going to, fight for her and whatnot and, publicize her story and ended up trying to sabotage her research and her files, according to her, and tried to poison her.
Really?
Was slowly poisoning, she said, and various other things. I mean, she made some pretty substantial allegations against him. Yeah. So that's one.
We believe she's dead now.
Story, but what's that?
We believe that McGawley's dead now.
Oh, is she?
That's what Stu Webb says, and I've located her home. There's at least a year ago when I was working on this. When I heard the whole Stu Webb accusation, when I heard the Stu Webb accusations about 18 months ago, I said, "Oh crap!" I said, "That's exactly what Jackie McGawley told me." And Jackie McGawley told Stu Webb the same stuff she told me, but now and also too, I think they were friends too. But when I asked Stu Webb, "Hey, I want to get in contact with her," I've emailed her that she doesn't open the emails. He says she's dead. I've looked her up. I found her address. There's still a home under her name. That was about a year ago, 18 months ago. I never got around to mailing, sending her a letter or anything like that, too. But she's definitely fallen off the radar. She's not talking to anybody. And according to Stu Webb, she's dead.
It's quite possible. I mean, it was a long time ago because, Program to Kill was published in 2004, 10 years ago. And so the research I did on it was done 11, 12, 13 years ago. So it's been quite a while since I spoke with her. And she actually mentioned a couple other people too that had kind of come to her as under the guise of trying to help her, and guys who had reputations as being the good guys, who she felt very victimized by, and so she was very skeptical of me,
right?
Because she basically had a track record of trusting these internet figures who appeared to be fighting the good fight, and then she let them get close, and they'd end up, doing exactly the opposite, according to what she told me. So, but that was many years ago, and I never had any contact with her again after that. So I have no idea. But at that time, she was still living down in the Beach City area, and I grew up down there. I grew up down in Torrance, so not far from where it happened there in Hermosa Beach. So that was my old stomping grounds now, and so I know the area very well. But yeah, I have no idea whether she's whatever became of any of the McMartin parents at this point in time. It's been many years now.
Well, yeah. Well, they fought an uphill battle because good old Oliver Stone, produced that movie starring James Woods, and good old James. Yeah.
HBO.
Yeah.
The only time HBO decides to weigh in on a supposed miscarriage of justice case, it's always on the wrong damn side.
Yeah.
Martin in a very high-profile way, and with the West Memphis 3 in a very high-profile way, and
very interesting.
Both just serving up massive amounts of disinformation and just massively misrepresenting the case. HBO's good at that.
Well, I know that Alex Constantine contacted Oliver Stone and told him, "Hey, man, you're on the wrong track here," you know. And the two of there's accusations and allegations against two of the screenwriters of that McMartin movie, the one that starred James Woods, who happened to be involved in the 9/11 hijacking rehearsals, and also had the run of the place at the O.J. Simpson trial, was able to just show up at the O.J. trial and go back and talk to the judge.
What? Who was that? Who was that?
Seriously creepy guy.
James Woods.
No, but who were the writers?
Oh, the two writers on there, according to Alex Constantine, had a history of being involved in child pornography.
Was it the Everly guy?
Yeah. And they're involved with that false memory syndrome thing too, which They
wrote that movie that Oliver Stone and Woods was in?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know they wrote that. I know that. Yeah, Everly was like he had a child pornography magazine or something like that, right?
Yeah, well then those are the guys,
like tabloidy newspaper kind of thing, yeah.
Wow, and there was, the McGowan case had a lot of...
They were the credited screenwriters on that.
Well, we'd have to look it up, but I know there was a connection. Okay, between them and this, but the screenwriters.
I think it was called Indictment, wasn't it?
Yeah, because the screenwriters, I talked to Sean Stone about this on the air, and I said to him, I says, "Hey man, what's the scoop with your dad? Doing that thing?" And he started going into, "Oh, well, I'm friends with Douglas Teacher, Douglas Teacher, all this kind of stuff like that." And it was just running around in circles. But and I mentioned, I says, "Hey, the screenwriters in that had those allegations as well." And he knew what I was talking about. So, and I'm getting that all from my reading of Alex Constantine back in the old days. Let me ask you a question.
There was so much to that case.
Forget it.
The chief complainant, the mother died early of supposed alcohol stuff, and there was a couple other deaths of people who died mysteriously. I think one of the cops died.
Suicide, yeah.
Yeah.
But also, too, that all the kids had the same STD.
A couple of people died
I don't think the kids ever denied it. A lot of them are still adults today and said it happened,
Yeah, but when you look around I'm trying to get a guest to come on my show and talk about that case, and the only people you could find publicly are the ones who have recounted and said, "Oh, it's all fake." There's something came out a few years ago where now it's conclusive that it was all fake. But from my talks with Jackie McGowan and Alex Constantine, I believe the case is legit for sure. The tunnel reports, and then other people I've talked to, and then even Aquino has a connection to that case. The kids.
Didn't know that. How does he have a connection?
I believe some of the kids in that case said that they were taken to a room that was painted all black that had a cross on the ceiling, which a lot of people talk about, which is the Aquino apartment in San Francisco.
They were transported to San Francisco?
Yeah, those kids in McMartin talk about getting on a plane and stuff like that. Just a lot of people overlook this though, man, but this kid in the Michael Jackson case was being flown around on a private jet. This last kid who made these accusations, the Arvino kid, we were just talking about that today, because Jamie Masada was involved in hooking that kid up with Chris Tucker. Why does Chris Tucker have a private plane? You know what I mean? The guy's a comedian. He's not that big of a comedian. He has his own private jet, and that he uses to fly around little kids to meet Michael Jackson?
That is bizarre.
That is totally bizarre.
Well, that's the same way it was in the Nebraska situations. Those guys were all being flown around D.C., Vegas, California.
And the Jeffrey Epstein case as well. His flight log showed that he was flying kids around the country as well, along with various celebrities and high-profile politicians, people like Bill Clinton and Kevin Spacey.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, Nick Bryant did a lot of research into that and actually wrote up a pretty detailed piece on it, which he sent to me and various other people, and which he tried to get published, but was never able, last I heard, to find anyone that was willing to publish it. And he had possession of his private phone book, his black book, that listed, all kinds of big names in Hollywood and Washington that he had direct phone numbers, direct contact with, and the guy was basically a very high level procurer and transporter of kids for the the rich and famous.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I've read some parts of the Epstein case, and he had this girl who was kind of like his procure. She would go out and make friends with the victims, and it's just, yeah, it's that whole. There's so much more to that Epstein story that all got covered up. A lot of it did.
Well, you know what? I'm not familiar with that story at all, but I'd love to get that guy on the show.
I got blasted for mentioning that he had ties to Woody Allen, and that the two were photographed at one time walking down the streets of Manhattan together. Woody Allen and of course who's long been accused of pedophilia himself, which his defenders heatedly deny. And so I got blasted for drawing a connection between Epstein and Woody Allen on that was another little controversy I stepped into. Woody Allen's defenders are quite vocal.
Well, Woody Allen, though, in his
very well-loved guy. I mean, people just love him, and want to see every movie that he makes, and they don't want to hear that maybe he's not the great guy that they want to think he is.
Yeah, but in his custody litigation, he was ruled. They ordered he was not allowed to see his child because there was enough weight to the allegations, and he never fought it.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, just like in the West Memphis 3 case, his supporters tend to misrepresent, what the actual, court results and findings were, and they like to claim that he was fully exonerated, and that, the investigations and trials and whatnot cleared him, and, it's the same kind of thing, I mean, these people tend to be protected, so,
A lot of them have a lot of PR. A lot of that stuff is like fake, AstroTurf, supporters. A lot of these guys put money down and put it into a pot, and it gets sent out to guys who will, support them from telephone banks and computer banks somewhere at, some offices. And that's really, a lot of it to me is fake, just like the West Memphis 3. I don't know what happened with all that money that they raised. I wonder if they're still spending it on the, on the PR that they're getting.
I don't know, but they sure poured a lot. I mean, just, all of these major Hollywood stars getting involved and putting on charity concerts and donating the proceeds from films. And I mean, there just had to be just a massive pool of money available to, achieve their goals. And,
it's estimated at $20 million.
$20 million, wow. I mean, the guy acts like he's a Hollywood celebrity himself, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he doesn't ultimately end up being one, I wouldn't be surprised to see this guy start, getting some kind of, either actor or producer or director or something, I would not be at all surprised to see him become a big player in Hollywood in the next 10 years or so.
Yeah, he just has to stay out of trouble till 2021 when his probation ends.
Well, and it seems like they have a free ride on that because the other guy, Miskelly, from what I understand, he never leaves his trailer down there in Arkansas, but he's had all kinds of domestic violence stuff going on there, and he's untouchable.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've never seen anything about the other two. I've heard hardly a word about what they've done with their lives since getting out.
From what I understand, is Miskelly's holed up in a trailer with his girlfriend, and Baldwin runs around talking to bar associations and legal conventions and stuff like that. He wants to do the legal end of it, and then Eccles is the showbiz and the Reiki and the tarot cards and all that kind of stuff.
Baldwin raised $25,000 on a Kickstarter campaign to write his memoirs.
It was more than that. It was like 33, man. It was, yeah.
Well,
Miskelly's probably suckers. God, you can believe that. Holy smokes!
Miskelly's probably scared he's going to turn up dead, which wouldn't really surprise me if he did. Actually,
Yeah, now that you
Yeah.
mention it, he is the loose link there, man.
He's got the loose lips, man. He's the one who talks. He's like, how many confessions has he had? Like 6, 7? I haven't even figured out the accurate number.
Yeah, it's up there. Yeah.
Just some follow-up information. There's a stepbrother of one of the guys who was investigated, Buddy Lucas, who's been talking a lot on West Memphis 3 civil discussion, and he said that he's friends with Eccles' dad, Joe, and he was told by Joe directly that Damien Eccles confessed to the crime to him. So Damien Eccles told his dad he did it, who told this guy, Wade Davis, I think is his name. And then this guy knows, if you want to see some interesting new information, this guy knows a lot of the players. So he has a lot of information about the parents, and it's pretty shocking, actually.
That's it. Maybe we can get him to call in.
Yeah, his name is, let me just find it. Hold on.
You know, I had an interesting thing, too. This guy who told me he was from their family contacted me through Facebook. I think I even sent you some links that he was talking about. He was the finder of lost children, the misfit toys, this bizarre stuff he was writing to me. And then he tells me he's related to Eccles. He had the last name Eccles on his Facebook page. And I said, okay, give me your phone number. And he went out and bought a prepaid phone. And when he first gave me the number, it was like all in one day. He gave me the number. There was no voicemail set up on it yet, And then finally, I'm talking to him, and I said, well, let me check out. And I checked out. I traced the number, and I found out that the phone had just been purchased that same day. The guy went out and got a new fake number for me.
Wow.
That's a pretty elaborate, hoax to talk to some guy, on an 11 o'clock in the afternoon Thursday radio show,
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You're talking earlier about Eccles' family being involved, and the family came up again. I've heard that they absolutely were, and that he basically is a product of a multi-generational cult family. From what I've heard, with close ties to the L.A. area. Is that true? Have you guys heard anything about that?
Well, Dominique Tier, his girlfriend at the time, Dominique Tier, had just returned from California, from, I think it was her cousin's house, TJ Tier. TJ Tier was at the time a vampire, drank blood, had a vampire magazine that she published. Then she became the spokesperson for vampires, the big giant vampire organization out of Transylvania. She was the spokesperson for this for years and years and years. Then she got involved in the furry movement. The furries, the people that like to have sex dressed up in costumes like at Disneyland and stuff like that. You can't make this stuff up. That's this woman here, TJ Tier. Look her up, man, and her associations and stuff. And Dominique Tier said, she says, yeah, so what? I drink blood. My mother drinks blood. My whole family drinks blood. It's no big deal. That's what she said to the cops.
Wow.
Yeah, and I have a video of Eccles saying, I don't drink blood, I lick, and then he basically sticks his tongue out. I mean, he's basically admitting to drinking blood, and that's all through the whole case, is that he's constantly drinking blood, and he says, makes me feel like a god, and all this other stuff,
Yeah, it's all in the whatever that case file number is, the psychiatric.
Exhibit 500, yeah.
Yeah, there's no shortage of damaging information about old Damien in there, and his keen interest in the occult, and his propensity for violence, and for making violent threats, and for drinking blood, and you name it, trying to recruit fellow inmates into the cult, and just all kinds of stuff that his supporters like to overlook.
Yeah, just the fact that he, I don't think there's any denial that he stomped on that Doberman pinscher and jumped on it until it died. You would think that people would just be upset about the animal abuse, because
I know that's people get more upset about that than anything else. I mean, you can watch 100 videos of cops, beating the snot out of somebody, but show them a video of a cop shooting a dog, and people go ballistic.
Well, leave a dog in a car with the window cracked. They're gonna come kick your ass. Forget it, man.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I'm the same way, you know. I mean, I love my dog to pieces.
Yeah, we all love dogs, you know.
Dog
But you know, when you got little kids getting raped and mutilated, and you know, and my God.
Yeah. I mean,
the violence towards animals and the trying to gouge the kids' eyes out and the blood drinking episodes and just all kinds of stuff it's all spelled out very clearly in black and white and admitted into the trial record by his own attorneys,
right.
Which is the thing that that his supporters like to overlook. They want to cast this as a sensational trial where they were throwing out all of these wild, a witch hunt accusations and whatnot. And I like to overlook the fact that a lot of that stuff went into the evidence from his own defense team after he was convicted in an attempt to show him to be too crazy to be executed, basically. So that wasn't even stuff that was entered by the state. It was by his own defense team.
And we have Sean Wheeler to thank too, by the way, for talking to the DA's office and getting a hold of that Exhibit 500 and putting it out on the internet, because before that, no one had it.
Wow.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know that as recently as 2007, his attorneys were arguing in the court that he shouldn't be put to death by reason of insanity?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it wasn't that long ago that his attorneys were arguing that, and I still have yet to ascertain how many attorneys he has had. It's like he's had 7 or 8 people blow out.
Well, what about that whole business about where the guy in the next cell, they had actually cut a hole in between the cells, and he was sneaking into the other guy's cell, and they were having sex, and then he sued, saying that it was unconsensual sex. He sued the prison.
Correct. The guy's name was Gardner. He was a fellow death row inmate, and he was put to death. But Eccles was trying to manipulate the jail into getting better privilege or something like that. But his argument was that there was a brick that was missing, like a large, sizable brick, and they were crawling through. But there's no way that he could have snuck into the next cell. But
I can't imagine how prison officials could overlook a hole that big in a death row.
On death row, yeah.
Well, then he was interviewed. He was interviewed for what was it, Law TV or whatever that old Court TV. Thank you. He was interviewed, and they were questioning him about it, and he basically admitted that. And I can't remember his exact words, but he basically said that's all I had to go on. I was just that was my attempt at delaying.
Well, what about the one where he's being interviewed and he says, "And my teeth were so infected and so rotted that I lost all my teeth." And then the woman says, "But you have your teeth."
Yeah, I know. You're still in prison, and I know. The guy lies constantly about his prison experiences, and contradicts himself constantly. I mean, by his own words, you can tell that he's lying. Like he loves to talk. I've heard him say repeatedly at different appearances how he had to live in fear, the whole time that he was in prison, that somebody was going to come up behind him and shank him in the back, and what a relief it is to be able to live a normal life and just go out to a movie and not have to be constantly afraid that someone's going to shank him, And yet, in almost the same breath, he's claiming that he was held in an isolated cell and not allowed any human contact at all, deprived of any human. And I'm thinking, well, kind of hard to get shanked if there's nobody else around, isn't it?
So true. So he repeated that exact claim on
lies repeatedly about his prison experiences.
Look at the Piers Morgan interview. He says that exact same thing.
Does he?
And then you know what? His wife shakes her head like she knows he's lying. It's an amazing interview. Look at the Piers Morgan interview. He puts his finger up to his mouth, makes the sign of silence, like the occult sign of silence. And they're just BSing. And then Piers Morgan is in on it. He's like, "I can't believe you would ever be convicted. You don't look like a bloodthirsty child murderer." And then you look at his face, and there's this pale, gaunt looking child murderer.
Larry King, too. Larry King gave him a free ride. Bill Maher, is that the guy I'm thinking of? It was also
Mohr.
yeah, that guy. Yeah, I got the right guy, right?
Yeah, I forgot his first name, but yeah,
He's fawning over him, man. Like, my God, what was going on in that? I'm talking about the guy who writes the blogs about the Real Housewives of New Jersey and stuff like that.
I don't know that.
Yeah, that's his name, Bill Maher. But anyway, he had his own little.
Talking about the HB.
Jay Mohr. Jay Mohr.
Yeah, Jay Mohr. That might be it. Yeah.
The comic, Jay Mohr.
Yeah.
There's a long interview with him and Eccles.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, he's fawning over him, man, like you wouldn't believe it.
Oh, really? He had a TV show years ago that I loved, and it gets harder and harder to enjoy any kind of entertainment anymore. Whether it's music or TV or movies. When you learn, who and what these people really are, it gets harder and harder to detach your brain and watch these people on your TV and think of it as entertainment.
Yeah, and like you guys were saying, about the PR departments and their agents and their lawyers and stuff like that. These major celebrities, they can cover things up and they can get stuff silenced, because even cases I was working on, when I was doing all those big celebrity cases, like the Ashton Kutcher thing, where the first girlfriend, Brittany Jones, Brittany Jones, that whole thing, even though we had the proof, it just can't. Oh no, we can't talk about it. It's done. He's denied it. His lawyers are involved. The whole thing's shut up, and was just poo-pooed away. But it wasn't until he got caught with the second girl, then that Demi Moore divorced him, and they got divorced, that it came out that the first girl was telling the truth too. So these guys, they have power, man. They can flip a switch, man, and get a story shut off, and play the way they want it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, so yeah.
The media is controlled even by these satanic cults.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they're definitely protected. The media definitely serves to protect them, and they're also just protected by the fact that the whole concept of it is just so outrageous to people. The whole notion that these people who are beamed into their living rooms, on a regular basis, whether they're film stars or TV stars or newsmen or politicians or whatever, could actually, lead a secret life that is just so far removed from what we, perceive as being 21st century life that, they're kind of protected in a sense by just, how
the absurdity. The absurdity. The idea that Tiny Tim, the Tiny Tim is, even hanging out with Roy Raiden.
People don't want to believe it, even when cracks do form in the facade, and you get a peek at the reality. People do not want to believe it because it's just so far removed from their everyday reality.
Very true.
Yeah, but how far removed is it really? Because when you look at this, the Cartoon Network in the middle of the night, what is it called, Adult Swim or something like that? There was something posted today in that Maury Terry group where they had subliminal messages talking about how Baphomet, and the Illuminati's in control. In the commercial for this Adult Swim on this Cartoon Network in the middle of the night, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it does become more and more overt, every day, and particularly in these real high-profile music videos and
right.
live performances, like the Super Bowl halftime show and the big, the big showcase performances, like the Grammy Awards and the Emmys and whatnot, they've just become showcases in recent years for just blatant occult and Masonic symbolism. It's just like shoved right in your face.
Yeah, and kids, like my daughter's age, like 14 years old, they all know, about the Illuminati and and all this kind of stuff like that. Yeah, it's I don't know, like what are we doing, man? Like when we're doing all this research and thinking that we're brilliant because we're finding out this information, are we really finding this out, or are they feeding it to us and just to get it out in our faces, to rub it in our face in some kind of way?
I wonder about that myself sometimes, I'm like, people ask me, are you scared? Do you get threats? Do you get harassment? Do you get, this and that and that? And the truth is that I really don't. I lead a pretty normal, day-to-day life, for the most part. And, I know that I'm not working for them, as far as I know from, but I sometimes wonder if the information that I'm putting out there is actually information that they want out there. And while I think I'm doing this great job, to save humanity, maybe I'm doing what they want me to do,
I'll tell you one thing about you, Dave. A lot of people I've talked to have read your book, like Hank Harrison, the father of Courtney Love, like Mark Rudd from the Weather Underground. It seems like, and these people like we're a little iffy about, when I bring you up, man, everyone's heard of you and everyone's read the book.
Well, it certainly seems to be getting around.
Yeah.
It's I'm amazed day by day when I check on Amazon to see how many reviews it's gotten. I mean, if you were just going just based on the Amazon reviews, you'd probably think this thing was like a nationwide bestseller, by all the attention it's getting, both pro and con. The majority of the reviews are very, very positive, like 75% of them are 5-star reviews, and then, a lot of the rest are 1-star with not a whole lot in between. But, so it's a book that people feel very, very passionate about one way or the other. The people that have discovered it feel very passionate about it. And that's very evident from the reviews, some of which are just so over the top. I can't even read them. They're just like embarrassing, just, maybe these people want to put me up on a pedestal. And, so yeah, it's definitely, considering that it has no mainstream support whatsoever, I've just done alternative radio and, podcasts and whatnot. And, it's gotten no mention whatsoever from, print media, radio, television, anything else. Considering that, it seems to really be reaching a lot of people and really resonating with a lot of people. So,
hey, you were on WBAI, right? How'd that go?
I don't know what all I've been on, man. I've done probably 50 interviews since the book came out, with most of them being like 2 hours long. So, probably close to 100 hours of interviews, and they all just kind of blend together after a while. It's I feel like I'm just sort of on the auto mode sometimes, and here's this question again. Okay, I know the answer to that one. I've got that one well rehearsed, and I've just I've done so many similar interviews. Book that it's really hard to keep track of who's who.
Okay. Now, William Ramsey says he's going to hang out and take calls. Dave McGowan sometimes, I know he works hard during the day and it becomes a long day, but he's such a good guy. He kind of owes me 7 minutes. The last show, my internet cut out. What do you think, Dave? Can you hang out a little while?
I can hang for a little bit, not too much longer, because I do have an engagement I have to get ready for this evening. But I can stay till 7:15 or so.
No pressure, man. Whatever you can give me, great. I appreciate it, man. Thank you. Okay, I'm just kidding around. Hey, but Dave McGowan, author of Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon and Program to Kill. Hey, Dave, man, tell us about Program to Kill. Now, that's a fascinating book.
Program, yeah, it's until Weird Scenes came out, it was probably the thing that I was most known for, and Weird Scenes seems to have very quickly eclipsed that. But it's still a book that I'm very proud of, even though it's 10 years old. It's not really dated. It doesn't, it's information that's still very new and fresh to most people. And basically, it's an alternative look at the phenomenon of serial killers, and whether what we have been led to believe a serial killer is in fact the reality. And it's It's definitely a very controversial book, probably more so than my newest one, and but one that I'm very very proud of, and then like I say, I think still it definitely still holds up, and is definitely still very relevant and current, and it delves into themes, the occult and pedophilia and just intelligence operations and all of those kind of weird themes that bisect and overlap. And
did you ever get a chance to watch that movie I told you about with the son from the BTK killer from that first murder? He did a documentary.
I Survived BTK. I have it on my Netflix queue, but have not yet gotten around to watch it.
You got it. You got to watch it, man. Yeah.
Watched it, and the weird thing about serial killers is that you don't really hear much about them anymore. You know, I mean, they kind of arrived in the late '60s, early '70s with a big splash, and I mean, before that we didn't even have a name for them. That was coined by the FBI's Behavioral Sciences Unit in the early '70s when we came up with the term serial killer to describe, this phenomenon that seemed to just be, happening all across the nation. And for a while, all of these like celebrity serial killers, these big names, these big name boogeymen that survive to this day in popular imagination, names like Ted Bundy and John Wayne Gacy and, Jeffrey Dahmer and the Hillside Stranglers and the Night Stalker and, on and on and on. And you don't really hear about that anymore. I mean, it's very, very rare that I can't remember when the last time that we had, the last big one was probably like BTK, and even that wasn't all that recent. There was a time, a definite era when serial killers just seemed to be everywhere, and it kind of came out of nowhere and then seemed to be everywhere. And nowadays it seems like that's died down to a great deal. And now what we get instead is, these spree killers and homegrown terrorists supposedly, bombing the Boston Marathon or shooting up a movie theater or a school or whatever. And that's really taken the place and really serves largely the same function that serial killers once did. And nobody really questions that, why serial killers became this huge, everyday kind of phenomenon for a, period of, 20 years or so. And then, and now seems to have, that seems to have largely passed. And now instead we have, these spree shootings as a daily occurrence. And that's accepted as, it's just remarkable to me really that people just accept stuff like that as, this stuff just like comes out of nowhere, and the next thing you know, it seems to be a part of our daily existence, and people just readily accept it and don't question why and don't question what purpose that could possibly be serving for the state.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's it, man. We're going to leave freedomsips.com and Hazy Radio. Happy anniversary, guys. Thank you very much. But if you want to Skype in and talk to William Ramsey, or for a few minutes, Dave McGowan. It's a big chance to talk to some really experts on these topics. Skype me at ed.opperman on my Skype thing here, and you can talk to William and David